Hey guys, so I hope that you had a good Thanksgiving break and winter break's almost here, so I hope that we all enjoy it. The end of the semester is always nice. Um, Today I wanted to talk about an issue that appeared because of COVID and how it affected me and my family, I guess. And it has to do with service contracts. So 2 years ago, my mom started prepping. She started looking for places to do a contract with, so like dance halls. She was trying to prep for my sister's quinceañera, and for people who don't know what a quinceañera is, it's basically a coming of age ceremony for young women for your 15th birthday. So she started looking for dance halls that had like low rates, that were like nice inside, and that offered like certain like services. Um, so for the contract, she ended up finding a nice dance hall by Yarborough, and it was still in construction. They were remodeling it, but because they were remodeling it, the services were the rates were so low, and plus she did it on a day where her rates went even lower, because it wasn't such a popular like day. And so she signed the contract. Everything went well, and for those 2 years until this recently, she started paying every month. She was never missing her payments. Everything was going good, and then the pandemic started, and because the pandemic started, things started going a little bit weird. So they started doing how nobody was allowed in large groups, which it would be a large group since it's a big party and we have a lot of family that we would want to invite. But they stated, well, the law stated that there was no large groups, no large gatherings. Um, but we weren't really worried about it since when the pandemic started, it was around March of this year, and the party was supposed to take place March of 2021. And so we weren't really worried about it until recently, since there doesn't seem to be an end to the pandemic. And so my mom was starting to go through options to see what she had. So she started going to the dance hall, and she started to talk to the person that was in charge of like the contract between her and like the dance hall, and he said that everything was fine, that they were allowing capacity in the dance hall, that the laws had been like introducing more and more gatherings, and so my mom wasn't really she was skeptical, but she wasn't really worried about it. Um, until she said, "Hey, let's go." She told me one day, she was like, "Hey, let's go to the dance hall. There's supposed to be some like quinceañeras or some like events going on right now, so let's go see what's going on, to see how many people are allowed there, so we can like kind of like base our like invitations through that." So we went, and there was nobody there. There was nobody in the car. There were no cars, no people, and so the next time that she had to go do a payment, she asked him if there was an event on the day that we went to go check out the dance hall and how it was at night. And he said that there was definitely an event, that there were people there, that it wasn't like maximum capacity, but it was like some people were there, but he was clearly lying to us because we went there and there was nobody there. And so we went another time. Maybe we just thought that he got his dates confused, and so we went another day, and the same thing happened. And so she started looking for ways to kind of like break or cancel the contract. Um, since either way she was thinking about it, and either way, if by March of next year they would have allowed large gatherings, they would have only allowed 50% or 75% capacity. And so we have a lot of family, and so we wanted kind of like to invite all of them. We didn't want to exclude anybody. And so she started going to lawyers, and they all told her the same thing, that if she canceled the contract, that she would have to pay remunerations, and so she would have to pay the dance hall money. But all the money that she's paid for the dance hall right now is already, she only has like a couple $100 left out of the $4,000 that she had to pay initially. And so I started looking for ways to break a contract, so kind of like past cases or some rules that there were. And so a contract has four elements. It has the offer, it has the consideration, acceptance, and then it has capacity. And so my mom had all those to make a contract. She viewed the offer, she read all the terms, she accepted them, she um, fought with him on some points, so there was consideration, and she definitely had the capacity. she's not incapable of any way of not accepting a contract. And so when I was looking at how to break a contract, the I went to a lawyer site, and the lawyer site told me that to break a contract there has to be like grossly unfair. It has to, like, one party has to give up first. There has to be a breach of contract, and the contract is fraudulent, which means that there's fraud in the contract, and that didn't really apply to us since technically every term that there was um, it was it was valid. It was We couldn't go through like breach of contract because the party hall or the person that had the other end of the contract hadn't really broken any contracts. They were still offering us the party hall. They were still offering us like their services. They were still offering everything, and so what we were concerned about was the capacity, how we wouldn't be able to like really reach a full capacity how we wanted. And so I started looking for another type of like how to break a contract. So I started to look on how to break a contract due to unforeseeable circumstances. And one of the ways that I found how to break a contract due to unforeseeable circumstances was that I found out that the common law and UCC, so the Uniform Commercial Code, usually takes control of service contracts. So the service contracts, the UCC states that service contracts, you can cancel them due to impracticability. So impracticability requires that a determination of foreseeability, and so because of the COVID, there was no foreseeability. We never foresaw a pandemic occurring, and so that could go against the USCC's guidance of service contracts of impracticability, which is foreseeability. So under this, under the UCC's guidance of impracticability, the seller's performance may be excused if the contingency that makes performance impossible or impracticable was unforeseeable at the time the contract was executed and the risk of its occurrence was not contractually allocated on one of the parties. So we could go through that, but there hasn't been. They usually don't take into account pandemics or disease. They usually take into account for like the UCC's guidance on impracticality. Impracticality. They usually guide things like unforeseen earthquakes or unforeseen hurricanes, like things like that. So like more weather based or more nature based unforeseeability than like more disease based. And so I also found a really old statute. It's a French like contract statute. It's called the force of majeure, and it's applicable in some ways, but in some ways it's not, because the the force of majeure, um, it basically defines it that if there's force majeure with an event beyond the control of a debtor, which could not reasonably have been foreseen at the time of entering into the contract, or whose effects could not be avoided in appropriate measures, prevent performance of obligators by the debtor. So we could do that, but technically, the other, the dance hall, and the other part of the other person on the other side of the contract, they're technically, although it's not a situation favorable to us, but we can't really do anything about it because the dance hall is still offering the dance hall, even though it's at low capacity. There was nothing in the dance hall contract, like the initial contract, about like dance hall capacity. It only said it stated that there was a certain amount of people like in the dance hall, like there was like, so 300 people, 3,000 people could be in the dance hall, but it never said anything about capacity, like, oh, for your party there's going to be only certain amount of people allowed. And because of that, and because they're still allowing us to use their services in their dance hall, we couldn't really get out of it. So even though we had the UCC's code of impracticality, and even though I had the choice of using the force of manure, um, I guess statute, the French statute, we couldn't really do anything because those are statutes that you use if there wasn't a foreseen circumstance, and the other part of the other party couldn't obliged to want to like a stipulation in the contract, and they're still obliging to a stipulation, but because we didn't foresee like capacity being an issue, um, we can't use any of the other statutes. Um, so that's what I found for how COVID like has affected the service contract that we're currently in. So there's currently no like answer on how to like get back the money that we put into the dance hall, but there we could apply it, but until like until the dance hall decides not to like oblige us on like how to use their dance hall to use their services, we can't really get back money because we can't really apply any of the rules that I just stated here. Thank you.